Hello, everyone. I'm Maura Zellner from UIC. If you haven't met me already, I'm the director of the Urban Data Visualization Lab at UIC, working here with Dean Massey, who's going to lead the presentation today. And also of our team are Jae-Yong Shin and Anton Rostkov, both of whom work really hard to create the maps and the data and the different tools that we share with you, and we hope that you find them useful. And so the idea for today is that we build on what we showed you last week, which was a prototype. Now it's a final version that it's live, that you can use. The idea is that you can actually follow along as we show you some things, if you want to do that. If not, you can wait till the end and then try it at your own pace. What we'll do is then show you how to not just use this tool in its final form, and like what new features it has based on the feedback that we got from you all last week, but also how do you use all of the tools that we provide to support your work in a way that makes how do you combine these different sources of data in ways that can help you with your outreach efforts. So with that, maybe Dean, you want to just go ahead and start, and
Sure.
Then as usual, we'll have we have some examples to show you, but we welcome any questions, any feedback, whether along the way or at the end. Either way is fine. And then we'll go over whatever example you want us to go over after we're done showing you all the all the series of things that we wanted to share with you today. But we can mix things in between. So but if you have questions, just feel free to raise them. Not a problem. We'll we want to hear from you. So just don't be shy. So I'll turn off my video. And so Dean, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Yes, sure. So there's a sequence for using this new tool in addition to the other tools. So we've already showed you how to do some of these before, how to identify underperforming areas. We'll go over this again. I'm just going to give you an overview of what we're doing today. And then, so the new tool to show activities and response rates over time, and then how you can identify the factors and go back to the other maps to help redesign new outreach strategies using the information from the previous steps. So let me jump right over to the maps. So, and I'll also show you how to get there. We'll just have the tabs in the meantime. So if you go to our website, click on Maps, Regional Intermediaries, scroll down, and then the last one of these maps on here, so Statewide Weekly Response Rates and Activities Map. And again, this will say the recommended order for using the tools here. So I'm going to click on View Map. This map is a little slower to load, so just keep that in mind if it takes some time for you, if you're following along too.
But Dean, I thought that we were going to start with the
Oh, right. Yes, of course. Yeah. So that's how we get to the map. And then this map. So let's just use the statewide map for now. So I'm going to go to statewide, hard to count factors, average efforts, and response rates, view map here. So we're going to identify the areas that are underperforming. So I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. And again, this shows the whole state, and it's going to show just the response rates now. So I'm going to scroll down this layers list. I'm going to turn off day 76 self-response rate map and turn on difference map. And for this, we got someone asking about Jefferson County earlier, so let's go there. So I'm going to click on this button here. I'm going to set it to counties, and I'm going to search for Jefferson County. There we go. And so again, this is just showing the response rates, so the difference with response rates versus projected. So
So,
what areas are performing?
so can you remind us what the difference is, what the projected is about?
Yes, okay. So the projections, these, we actually have that. Let's look at that first.
No, actually, I think that you should just focus on the projected, the difference minus the
Okay.
real minus projected. But just
So,
to clearly explain the concept here, what is a difference map about?
so we created these projections based on the responses from 2010 and then the factors that were associated with the response or lack of response in those areas, for all areas actually, and the factors though. And then we also created 5 separate models for different kinds of geography across the state based on differences and the factors that were important in different areas. So there's different factors for Chicago, for example, compared to rural areas. And on the other maps, on top of the map, it would say the factors there. But since this is a statewide map, it doesn't show them. So you should really use the local subgeography maps when possible. But for this, I'm just trying to show like the whole county. So I'm going to statewide map. For the projections though, so even though they're based on what happened in 2010, they're using real data from 2019 to create the projected response rates. And that's because factors have changed over time. 10 years is a long time. And so some areas may be the same. Other areas have seen a lot of people moving out, moving in. And so you can't just look at what happened in 2010 as a guide for what is going to happen now. So we really just used 2010 to look at what factors were important. Is that clear?
So let me just build on that and say, so then the projection then takes into consideration these changes of the last 10 years to try to estimate what the response rates might be in these areas, the self-response rates might be in these areas. So we use that as a goal, right? And so then what we show in this particular map is the difference as we update it each day, the difference between the actual response rate, the real response rate, and that projected response rate that we built based on 2010, but it's projected for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so the darker colors are the ones where they're much more off target than the lighter colors. So Dean here is showing you, and so this one 16, almost 17% below target. That one also about 16%. But the light colored ones are, it's like almost at target. It doesn't mean that we don't want to go over. We maybe want to go over, but at least we've got those response rates or like those goals met. Oh, the question here from Shelley is, what about green? Those small dots, those are the activity layers. Mm-hmm. So maybe you want to just check off the activity layers.
Yeah. Okay.
Because those just reflect the different colors of the different RIs that conduct those activities. So all the shades of red here have to do with like, how far are we from the goal? And the darker again it is, the farther away we are from the goal.
Mm-hmm. And so we use projections for this to the difference layer so that there really shouldn't be a reason why this area is so far behind. I mean, considering everything else that's going on, of course, but like this area, these areas here are basically where they should be now. And so if you were going to Jefferson County, then focusing on areas here and here, actually in these areas too, these smaller tracts.
Mm-hmm.
All
and so if you click on the activity layers, you can see like, have there been activities happening in these darker areas? And if you click that off, we see that there's been quite a bit, but not overall in all the areas. So mm-hmm. This is where we might want to see at the time series, like the time progression of like, how were these activities recent? Were these activities like older? How did the response rate change over time as we conducted these activities? And this is where then you will go to this other map where you see the time series and just try to figure out what happened from day to day.
Let me re-navigate here just as a reminder again, since this is new. So regional intermediaries and subrecipients map. scroll down, click on, oops, stuff in the way for me, click on View Map, and then it'll load.
This is just to let you know, it's a slightly different kind of map from Esri. So that's why it's called the story map. And it does take sometimes a little bit more time than the other maps to load up, but you know, it will. And depending on your computer as well.
So let's go, well, before we go there, just give a brief overview of what you're seeing here. And so each one of these tabs represents a different point in time. It'll show the response rates on the day listed here. So like if you click on this tab, it would be day 7, March 26th. I'll just click on that. You'll see them change a little bit. And all these other colors you're seeing, these are the activity reports. And these are for just that weekly period. So between the last one and this one, that if the activity ended by the date before here. So like for this between day 0 and day 7, this would be March 21st through March 26th, any activity that ended then. And day 0 on this tab, this is showing basically everything that happened before March, it is March 20th, from October through March 20th, all in one tab. And then these are for the self-response period, so when people can actually respond to the census and how this changes over time. So let's just do a quick cycle through, zoomed out before we go in. And so at day 0, everything is dark. That's because their self-response rate was 0 then for everyone. Then here we'll see some areas get darker right away.
Lighter, you mean?
Yeah, get lighter. And it's getting a little more widespread, the light areas. And you can see the activities are changing too. And sometimes it'll just move around a little bit when you click through these, but then it should go right back to where we zoomed before. And when you get to the end of the tabs here, you can see you need to click on this, and then you'll get more tabs. And these will be added every week on Friday. So there'll be a new day to click on.
So remember, the more recent tabs, so the more recent results are going to be like in this pull down menu because of just, you know, how Story Map just packs it up that way.
And you can see like most areas of the state now are light, but there's still pockets of darker areas. Let's go more. And we do recommend clicking on all the steps, and we'll show you when we get a little closer zoomed in why we'd want to do that. At the statewide view, you're not really seeing the detail of the activity reports you'd be seeing if you zoom in closer. One other thing you'll notice too as you click through these tabs is that the graph on the right-hand side. So you might have seen these before, they're on our website, but these are showing the progress for the whole state compared to projections. And so if you click on like day 0, it'll be blank, except for the projected one. Let's just click on the middle to see the progress here. So you can see that we're still lagging behind a lot, but then if you go, let's just go to the end again. The rate's approaching projected.
We're definitely getting there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're ready to zoom in a little.
Yeah, well, one thing that I do want to point out is like we wanted to just make it clear where the boundaries of the different service areas are. Again, this is based on the survey that we conducted like a month or 2 ago, and that you gave us all that information, just to make it easier to identify your areas of work, so that you can zoom in more easily. At the same time, you can also do a search, which is what Dean is going to show you right now, like for a particular location. So maybe we can continue with Jefferson County.
Yeah, let's just let's just talk about those RI borders again. So you might notice though that the colors kind of change, and that's because you can only see one border at a time. And so if they overlap, then it'll just see the topmost layer. So like here, this RI area is big, but you don't see a consistent color around the whole border. Okay, so there's a different search bar for these types of maps than other maps you're familiar with. So you can't change the kind of feature you're searching for, you just have to treat it like Google Maps or something like that, where it's searching for like an address, intersection, a town, county, something like that. Let's just go for Jefferson County here. You have to enter a little more information since it's not nearing, it's just like searching the whole United States. Actually, maybe the whole world even. Okay, so let's go back to day 0. So as I said, day 0, response rates everywhere is 0 because people haven't been able to respond yet. But you can still see that there have been some activities here already.
Right, before the self-response rate period.
Let's just click on 1 or 2 to see. So Clay County Health Department. Okay, let's just cycle through the progression. Actually, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, let's cycle through now. So there's a few, no activities here. Oh yeah, okay. So you can see activities happening here and the response rate jumps right there.
That's a big jump.
Okay, yeah, so now there's more activities happening. So you saw some big jumps though earlier on. Let's go back a little bit, like here. So these kinds of activities, these were direct engagement. So the RI for IPHA, Southern, they would have a better idea about what those reports are for and what they meant. You can also, again, click on the arrow keys here to cycle through. You might have, okay, that's just Tracts, but if you click on a spot where there's a few different kinds of trackers, you'll be able to cycle through the reports.
With those little arrows at the top right corner of the pop-up window.
And if you want to see what all these different dots and everything mean, the colors mean in more detail, you can click on Legend here, and then it'll show you the color coding. So we have the same color coding for the RA boundaries and for the types of activity reports. This is a long legend, just to warn you. There's nothing we can do about that. You just have to cycle through it. So getting onto the events now. So these are color coded by the size, shape, the code by, so like for direct engagement, it's the squares, then their size for the reach of them. Okay, let's go to the bottom now. Okay, so then you get to the self-response rate map guide here. So 71, 51, that's the range for this. So yeah, if you know more about these reports, then it's going to help you. You can click on these and see like what reports, what kinds of activities were more impactful here. So like these that all pop up right here seem like they had more of an impact. Maybe again at the end there were a few more popping up there.
So there, just bear in mind that the colors, if you will, look a little bit better than when we saw the difference map on the other online map. And the reason for that, again, is that this is just showing you the response rate, because it makes sense here to see like what the difference in this response rate is given the activities conducted. But there's still the goal, right? So there's like this goal to reach. And so that's what might make like here, the response rate is actually, if you click on the response rate on the upper, no, on the map. On the map.
Oh yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, the one on the left to that one.
Yeah.
No, okay, 50%. So that's 50%, and the one above, not the totally dark one, that one.
Yeah. Okay. 59.
That's
okay.
50. That's 59. So I mean, it's still kind of like definitely below target. So those are areas to see how much below target you need to go to the other map. But here, the idea was to be able to link the activities with the consequent response rate after the activities happen. So like, did it make a difference? How much of a difference did it make? Mm-hmm. And so what we're seeing here is that perhaps there needs to be a little bit more focus on the activities in that particular area, in those tracks that are darker, because again, those are below target by quite a bit. And even like in terms of just like absolute response rate without even comparing to a goal, they're also kind of low.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, one thing, other
So
thing.
sorry, is this for the last, is this the last tab, Dean?
Oh, went forward a little. Let's go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but still, you can see like everything else is really great. It went up quite a bit, but those areas are persistent. And I don't know, like there's, right, it's not mapping any activities there. So lately there doesn't seem to be a lot of activity there. And maybe there needs to be.
Oh, okay. There's one there. You have to cycle through.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Oh, no, I can see it.
Oh, there's a tiny dot. Okay.
It's not letting me click on it though. Well,
okay, but I think that the point is that there might need to be a little bit more effort pointed to that area.
And then if you want to see like the cumulative look at all the activities here, you can click on this button on the top, or this text at the top, really, not a button. And unfortunately, it'll zoom out. That's just the way Esri works. So we have to, let's just navigate back to there. Oh, it's actually saved it, so that's good. There we go. Let's zoom back in again. So you can see there has been a lot there, but activities happen more like in this area where the response rate is high. There's been some here, but like this area really doesn't need too much more effort. You should be concentrating more in these areas.
So when we see the cumulative map, either here or in the other map, the initial map that we were showing you, it shows all of this cluster. And one would think, okay, but why isn't much happening? Well, because not in the recent weeks. So in the recent weeks, there hasn't really been that much activity in those areas. And maybe they should be targeted again.
Okay. And one other thing to point out about the search bar too. So you can't search for census tracts or for RIs in here. It's again just like Google Maps where you can search for the like more common types of features, like the actual features you could search for. And if you want to go back to the other view we had before we turned on all the cumulative reports, click on this big back button up here, and then it'll go back to the regular weekly activity view.
So then once you're able to determine like, okay, so what's happening in those areas, maybe we need to go back to those areas and conduct some outreach activities. This is where you would go back to this particular map, but really from your geography. So where would this
let's
be?
go back. This is mostly, well, I'm sure it's mostly rural, but there might be like a cluster there too. Let's click on rural areas. And I'll, again, search for Jefferson County.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so part of the city is not in a rural area. That would be like an urban cluster.
An urban cluster or an urban area. Mm-hmm. But
here,
part of
this
it
area,
is not, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this has a low response rate. It's performing poorly compared to projections, and there hasn't been much activity either. So for this tract, you could use this map then to see what the factors are. So if you click on the map and at the top, they'll show you the factors. I'll scroll back down a little. So let's just turn on, let's say, unemployment or high school diploma.
So again, just to remind people, those are the factors. Can you please click that on again?
Yep.
So those are the factors that are also repeated at the top of the map. And so those particular factors are the ones that decrease response rates in these areas. So when you're designing your outreach activities, you may want to consider these factors to inform how those activities should be conducted, so that you take into consideration these aspects in that particular place.
Mm-hmm. So let's just turn off the response rate map, and I'll go on turn on some of those other factors. So like unemployment, that's a high unemployment there. No high school graduation. That's relatively high too. Let's try the other ones, vacant units. That's
where like if you scroll up, you can see the factors again.
Yeah.
Now scroll up the entire map there. So unemployed, vacant, and mobile homes.
Let's try mobile homes. That is
That's pretty high.
too. Yeah.
Right.
So this looks like this area has high percents for all of these different 4 factors.
So again, like these might be things to consider as you're designing your outreach activities. Now, if we wanted to focus on the urban area here,
and
Vernon,
but you can, there's other factors you can look at too. So these aren't associated with the response, but these might help you craft messages. Like you could look at these other like socio-demographic things. Like if you're crafting messages, like maybe veterans, let's say, that's pretty good. Well, moderately high. Oh, but it has, well, okay, that's relative. But these can help you just like to know if like you need to use non-English language materials or something like that.
or if your sub-organizations or organizations are focusing on a particular type of population, then that can help you, just identify where they might be concentrated.
Right, like even you can turn on the partners layer again. Let's zoom in and look at that for just a minute too. I'll turn on.
Yeah, turn on the layer again. The difference.
See where the track is. Okay, so there's a few partners here. Oops, why can't I click on that?
So what Dean is doing now is he turned back the response rate. Actually, you might want to turn the difference map, the one above, just to get like the difference map.
Yeah.
There you go. And so then there you can see like which partners are operating in that area that you can maybe get help, from or just collaborate with.
There we go.
That can help you address those communities in the areas where we're off target by quite a bit.
So like here, there's a school. Oh, 2 schools. Oh, I guess a school district and this elementary school. So let's go to
the urban part.
Yes.
Of that section. So this would probably be, I wonder if it's urban area outside of Chicago. Let's see if we can find Vernon.
Yeah, let's try this. I'll go to Jefferson again. Oh, okay.
You need to click the
yes. Urban clusters then.
And you, of course, would know this more than we would in terms of like the populations that you're dealing with. So you know probably more easily where to go.
There we go. Yeah, so you had some of these tracks are performing poorly compared to the projections. Let's turn that again. And so you could see the and the factors here, they're slightly different. So percent of housing units that are vacant, percent of residents who were born in a foreign country, percent of residents who are unemployed. So we could click on those layers. Let's turn off the difference layer. Vacant units. So that it's high here. Well, especially high there. Let's go to unemployment.
And born in foreign countries too.
Yes. Those are relatively high too. Well, very high. Born in foreign countries. So these are low here.
Right. So here probably the contribution is more from vacancy and unemployment than from being born in foreign countries. And
then the other factors that you can use to help to craft the messages. We don't need to click on those now, but the partners, let's just click on that for a minute. We can turn on one layer, difference again. So here, so let me click on everyone. Well, here we go. Southtown Youth Program Center, Whitton Ambulance Services. So there's other ones like this too. Not sure why I can't click on that one. Jefferson County.
Right, so there are 5 over there, and you can just go through and see them all. But again, just to show you what resources are available in that area that you can tap into to help you with your outreach efforts.
So let's go back to this time series maps here, the weekly response rates activity maps. Do we have any questions so far?
About this one or in general,
Yes.
anything that we can help you with?
Or if there's any area that people want to see. I had another area that I thought might be a good example too. You can type them in, you can unmute yourself and ask, but in the meantime, I can just show you another example. And we have some other questions too that people ask before that we'll get to. So I've used this area before as an example. So this is like just north of St. Louis. So on day 0, you can see all these activities that have taken place. There's a lot of more activities over here that have already happened, and they're more scattered versus like the ones here, which are more of the county-wide types of efforts. So let's cycle through and see what happens. So there is so this area is going down more, and this had a lot of earlier activity. And this area is over here are starting to have some activities, but there's still more of like the
At county level. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more impersonal types of things. And again, some more of these happening.
So are you saying that the more direct engagement kind of activities are seeming to have like more of, or at least more localized kind of activities?
I think
have
so.
More of an impact than the countywide?
Yes. And so like in this total overall numbers of amount of activity too, there's been more on this side, and I'll just go to the end again. Let's go to the end and also just do the cumulative view. Mm-hmm. And zoom back in. It's still loading, hold on. Okay, so one more time. And so you can see that there's been a lot more of these more personal types of activities over here versus here.
Well, but do you mean personal, or do you mean localized? Is it more
local,
about like
yes,
being at the local
right.
level, or is it being about like, you know, interaction with people, whether it's virtual or not?
More localized, like
okay.
The engagement types of activity. Direct engagement's broad category, but still those kinds of activities seem to have been more effective over here. Mm-hmm. I'll just click on some of these. Right. Engagement too, but we can't tell from just this level what they are, but these are still the county level ones. So these could be things like social media posts or media advertising, things like that.
So at this point, I would like to ask people if they have any questions. We did receive some questions that we can address, but I do want to kind of take a little pause and just give some room for people to either type questions in or just jump in and let us know, or comments or things that you want us to try.
So one of the questions we got, and we can switch back to this map too. One of the questions we got was how to search for census tracts, or how to actually see the zip codes for census tracts. So I switched back to the regular, the older maps we have here. So this is this, let's just go back to here to make it more clear. So the top 6 maps, let's just click on, let's just do the statewide map for now. So if you want to see the zip code for a tract, I'm going to first turn on the zip code layer, boundary layer, I should say. I'm going to then change the search field here to census tracts. If I can remember the number, I think it was this one example one. 8412. Anton or Jay Young, do you remember? Well, we have them anyway, so you can search for, I'll just pull up one of these that came up.
There was a question about the ID, census tract ID number, right?
Right. So then here, you can see the census, if you click, here we go. So this was the tract that's searched for here. Then the zip code here, layer here, I'm gonna click on that again. If we cycle through, then you can see the zip code, so 60188. And the census tract boundaries don't always correspond with the zip code boundaries. Here it did, but that is not always the case. Like here, right over here, it's zip code boundary is kind of squiggling around. And then you can also enter different kinds of census tracts. So if here we have, the ones we have had before here are these longer 10-digit ID numbers. We can enter shorter ones that are on the tables that DPA is providing, and then they'll link up to these. And so if you click on, if you enter one of the other shorter numbers, it would show you the full number in the window here. And you should, if it's something you check frequently, you might want to just write down this as a reference.
Right, because there might be like those shorter numbers might actually be duplicated across the state.
Right.
So it might generate a little bit of confusion. So the census tract, the complete census tract is unique. And so if you have that number, there's just like one number, one tract with that number. But if you have that shorter ID, there could be several tracts with that number.
Yeah, so the naming scheme for the shorter census tract names repeats it for every county. And so if it's something like just like 20, then there's probably lots of them. So most of them have longer numbers, but if it's a shorter one, you're going to come up with a lot of things if you search for it. So the full one is still better to use. Okay, we have some questions, it looks like.
No, we had Lyndon.
We got it? Okay.
Just being grateful, and we're always happy to help.
And we talked about the projections too. So let's see.
So just we can again just like pause here and just ask people, do you want us to show you some examples, any particular place that you're interested in that we can help you with, and just show you how to use these tools in conjunction to make the best out of them. Or we can just like stay here and just do like one-on-one when, whatever people want to see. Or
the deadline for the monthly reporting for May is next week. So if you have any questions about how to report or even how to pull the data off the app, off the platform, we can help with that too. This doesn't have to be just about mapping, so you can ask us anything now.
Okay, so we are, just 5 minutes ahead. So what we're going to do is we're just going to hang out here for a little while. And North Chicago, Shirley, yes, sure, happy to help.
Sure. Okay, so I have all these things open. So let's switch back to this map. And so I'm just going to refresh it so I go to the
Well, actually, why don't we do from the beginning, the first step?
Right. Okay, let's do that. So I'm going to change. Well, let me just refresh this too. Actually, West Chicago, that would be the Chicago suburbs. So let's just do that map from the beginning. Okay, so as it loads, so what we're going to do is change the search field to municipalities. I'm going to type in North Chicago. Okay, and then from here, what I'm going to do is scroll down a little bit, turn off the self-response rate map, click on the difference map, which is just above it. And you can see the areas here near Waukegan. Those are much below projections, almost 20% below, versus like over here where it's still a lot below, but not as bad as here. But it looks like much of the city is below projections. Well, all the cities below projections. So let's bring up the boundary again. Okay, here's not, here is, yeah, there we go. Only, it's almost at projection. So you want to focus up more in this area. So then let's switch back to the other map.
And just see like the progression of activities and response rates over time.
Okay, so this is day 0. That's why it's all the same color. Let's cycle through. Oh, gosh, look, what does this do? Two more to go.
So what seems to be happening is that a lot of the activities actually occurred before the self-response rate. So if you look at the cumulative, a lot of the activities happen like before the self-response rate period happened. Then there are some moments of activity, but perhaps for this particular area, it just needs a little bit more than we did see some change though. Like there was like one of the weeks where there was like a little bit more activity, and I don't know which week it was now.
And you are seeing, you are getting let me zoom out a little bit. So if you're zoomed in as far, you can't see the whole county-wide activities happening, but you can see more of that happening here, this giant donut over in the corner. Yeah, so this is like, these are activities for all of Lake County. And so we're seeing less of fewer of these more localized types of activities happening compared to countywide. Although like here there is rails, they're doing a lot at the library, but again, this area in particular is lagging behind the most, and there is not as much happening over here. There's just a few trackers here. Only action for children. Oh, another public library.
But that's the cumulative, right?
Yes.
If we go week by week.
Let's start at the beginning again.
So like, again, like you see more clearly, like just keep going. So there's a little bit more, but it didn't make that much of a difference. There's another like, spurt. And there it made it, so that yeah, there you see like some impact from there to there. And in fact, it carried it over for a little bit. So that, so, that was maybe something to be reinforced, in that particular area, and maybe just moved also more to the eastern part of the municipality. Okay, but then that again, like you can get that information and then go back to the other map and just look at what are the factors that are affecting the response rates here, and just trying to look at those layers and see like, okay, what's the value of these characteristics here? So you can click on the different layers and just see like, so for example, maybe show some of like, phone service is a problem, vacancy, especially nowadays, it's a problem. Vacancy could be like a problem as well. There are quite a few factors there, like the population age.
Oh, okay, let me do it for an age then. 18 to 24.
I think it's 20. Yeah, 18 to 24 and 25 and 44. So again, like things to consider as you're designing your outreach activities for these areas that are not moving as much as you want them to. So that's kind of like how you use this combination of these tools. Now,
And then,
Mike is, yeah.
And then
the
the partners too. Yeah. So let's.
Yes, right. You can do the partners too to
Yeah.
see like who you could, try to collaborate with. You can show it too if you want to.
Sure. Let's go to that. Turn off these other layers for that.
And then just maybe have it like, again, the difference map to just kind of like know where to target. There we go. And so like the darker areas, what are some of the, partner institutions that might be worthwhile reaching out to partner.
So yeah, like for this, you're getting some churches, some schools, daycare.
Yeah.
And so on. There's a lot of features to go through.
Yeah. I do want to address Mike's question here. So we can go to this tract, but it seems, Mike, that you already have found all the information that you were looking for. And yeah, with the present health situation is definitely an issue. In terms of kinds of activities, again, like we need to refer you to the DPA team because they are the ones who are training our eyes on outreach, like kinds of outreach activities. What we do is provide the tools to understand like where things are and how things matter in terms of like the activities that you conducted already, where they are relative to response rates and where those response rates need to be. That said, however, Dean, maybe you might want to show like on the website, I think we did share with you last week, but where some resources are for outreach materials.
Yes. Let me go open to a new window. So I'm going to go here, outreach tools. So there's like the Voorhees Center, for example. If you click on here, there's a number of guides.
But then there's also like the Kivik guide.
Outreach guides, yes.
Right, so there's a social media outreach because I mean we have to rely a lot on that nowadays. But there's also this Census, what is it called again?
Oh, the digital toolkit.
That one, the digital toolkit 2.0 with different materials that hopefully you can tailor to your communities, and they're in different languages. And things that you can print out, that you can pass in houses. So yes, because like with no internet, you can't rely on just social media or virtual communication. So passing things out, like flyers and things like that would be probably a way to go. But again, that would be DPA's, the DPA team's realm. And so I don't want to, step on their work and what they do and what they advise you to do, given the circumstances. But what this allows you is to see what characteristics are there so that you know what you need to deal with. Like what you're doing right now when you're asking this question, you're clearly doing that already.
What they have to offer, okay, yes.
You mean DPA? What DPA
I was
has
reading
to
the Mike's
offer?
comment. What?
Yeah, oh, okay. Also, we were able to get into the field.
Yes.
Well, what I can definitely do is I can raise this with the team and with IDHS and with Kivit. So we can actually, let me get this information. I'll copy your question here and just put you in touch, or at least raise this question with them to see what would be helpful for you in terms of things that you can do in that particular area in Harvey. We'd be happy to do that. In fact, some of the questions that we have received before on these issues from you guys, like on outreach to specific types of outreach, we have relayed to the DPA every time that you have asked. We've relayed that to the DPA and IDHS team. Okay, I'll let them know, Mike, what you've been doing, that you're doing all kinds of electronic communication for those that you can reach, of course. But then the issue is like those who do not have internet, you know, and they might have cell phones, but still it's like, you know, how it's kind of hard to maybe reach out to them. Anytime. Any other question or example that any one of you would like to go over? Okay, it is 4:51, so we'll let you guys go, but we'll hang out here for a little bit. Oh, you're very welcome, Lyndon. And we'll hang out for a little bit. If there are any like one-on-one questions or issues, we're happy to help. So thank you all very much for coming. Again, the video will be posted on the website, so if you need to go back to it, and you know, we're here to help. So just, you know, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions on the data or the mapping tools. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Thank you.